All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, well, you've already seen the title, you've already seen the thumbnail, you can already see who's right across from me. Today, we're going to be having a debate. So here is Ben. This is Ben Cummings. Tell me again, sorry, the name of your Instagram, name of your show.
Homegrown show.
Homegrown Show, from the Homegrown Show. And you're a farmer, you're a homesteader, I guess you would call it, right? And from what I understand of what you do, you buy animals, I guess, that's how they come to you, right? You buy them, you bring them to your farm, you have them there for some time, whatever that may be, and then you kill them and you're eating them. And that's your business. Or not a business, right? It's just, is it for your family or is it a business as well?
Yep, for our
Just
family.
for your family. Okay. So how we got here and how you've ended up on my channel is you were getting some comments or DMs, I guess, from vegans that I've not seen, by the way, because I wasn't informed exactly. We didn't get into that exactly what they were saying or what was happening, but as a response to that, you made a video that said vegans have been brainwashed because farmers do love their animals, and you were kind of sick of hearing that farmers don't love their animals. And that's the video that I saw. And in this clip that you put up there, it had with you tickling a pig, it had some of your friends who are farmers kind of having cuddles and nice times with animals, which, as I said in my response, is quite nice to see. But in my response, I did call you a liar, lying by omission, because in that moment it looks really, really nice, but in the next moment they're going to be getting, stabbed or their heads cut off, right? In some of the cases, for the goose, for example, that the head would just be sliced off. And I felt that was lying by omission, so I made that response to you. I felt that you were giving an incorrect view on farming, because and I know, I think we both know, the vast majority of animal products are coming from factory farms. So not only are they going to be having their heads chopped off as the same as your farm, but actually their entire life is just constant suffering until that point. That's the majority of animals. So I felt it was misleading, which is why I made the response, and it didn't show all the suffering, the disease, and the living in their own feces and urine that happens in actually most farms in the world. So you popped into my comments of that video response, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting, I suppose. You made a couple of claims in the comments. The first thing you said, I think, or first or second thing you said, was you said vegans are forcing their body into unnecessary starvation and that vegans have nutrient deficiencies. You said you followed up, said you have the data, you have the studies to prove it. Now, since then, I thought this was going to be a debate where we just get into the health stuff. But since then, I know that you spoke with Lifting Vegan Logic, Danny, and also I saw you spoke with somebody else in your comment section and actually took it back and said, actually, don't think there's anything wrong with veganism. You just need to work hard to get proper nutrition, which is not the same as starvation and nutrient deficiencies, right? You said Danny had great points, and it's actually more concern that people just don't have the right knowledge, as opposed to that vegans are all starving. It's more just they don't have the knowledge. It's not that veganism is wrong or bad. It's that there's knowledge gaps. So far, are we in agreement? So this is what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So that we can just do away with that part of this conversation then, because if you acknowledge that it's possible to be healthy as a vegan on a plant-based diet, it's just that people don't have the knowledge, then that's great. That's what I do. I'm here to try and give the knowledge out there, and so is Danny. So we know that. I think vegans in the chat, you guys know that too, right? There are knowledge gaps out there, just like there are with the omnivorous diet. So let's agree on a couple of things then, before we get into things that we're probably going to disagree on. So if someone's obese, right, and dies of a heart disease from a heart attack because they eat 5,000 calories of McDonald's a day, that's not the omnivorous diet that killed them. We agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so omnivore diet isn't the enemy here. It's the 5,000 calories of McDonald's a day that's done it, right?
Yeah.
And there are many people doing that, obviously, who don't eat well. And it's not the omnivorous diet causing them issues. It's that they get it wrong and they don't have all the information they need, right? So then if a vegan does the same thing, like, for example, that Russian influencer, she starved herself to death, which is horrible, right? But that doesn't mean that veganism kills in the same way. It doesn't mean that the omnivorous diet kills. It means that she starved herself by not eating. She was eating durian fruits. That's all she was eating. I don't know if you know that. She wasn't eating
Yeah.
properly, right? So we agree that the problem isn't the plant-based diet in that case as well? Or would you have something else to say on that?
Yeah, so the foundation of what I see veganism as a problem is with regards to sustainability. It's why we started our farm in general, was because, and what we agree on is there are huge issues with regards to factory farming. There's issues with regards to the, like you said, how animals are treated. And it's something that we wanted to change. We wanted to know where our animals came from. It's why we're starting an animal husbandry program, such that we don't want these animals, which is a common vegan trope. We don't want them raped. We don't want to abuse them. We want them well taken care of and for nature to take its course. It's why we do what we do here. And I want to have control over that because I've seen the same documentaries. I've seen these issues online, and would agree in large part with what vegans say is I don't want these animals abused. I don't want them hurt. I don't want them torn apart. I don't want them living in their own feces. But the issue with regards to veganism, I find, is people don't understand that the lack of nutrients from their diet, and some of that is with regards to, that just comes back to the sustainability part. Some of that is the issue of those things you can't get from a vegan diet. You have to supplement and whatnot, or you have to get them from things that don't exist anymore. Something like B12 is something that really doesn't exist outside of animals right now. You can get it from certain places, but not really sustainable sources. So my big beef really with vegans is just not having that understanding, because a lot of people fall with those emotions. They see those documentaries and they say, I'm just going to stop eating meat. But if you just stop eating meat, period, if I were to stop eating meat today, my body would suffer. And I fear for people who don't have that knowledge.
So again, yeah, so to clarify with this point, with the, for example, just before I answer your last point, with the vegan who starved herself, you don't think that it was the plant-based diet that caused that. You agree with me that it was her issues that caused her to starve herself to death.
Absolutely, but
Right. Okay.
that is a similar ideal from which the veganism and sort of the cultism that exists within vegan culture that can be dangerous to
Right.
people.
I think your opinion on that is a bit misguided because she clearly had an ED and she clearly was mentally not well. It wasn't to do with her cultishness with the vegan world. It was maybe she was using that as a front, but nobody dies of malnutrition without severe issues.
Yeah.
Either issues of being lost in a jungle or severe mental health issues. I'm yet to run into a vegan who is saying I'm starving myself to death for animals. It doesn't exist. There's another problem, as I said, that they're maybe masking with veganism, and that requires therapy, that requires professional help. And then it happens also. You look at these carnivore dieters; it's the same on the other side too. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people who are really messing themselves up, and I don't think they don't genuinely believe eating only meat is the best. It's a mental health thing. I think on both sides. So. With regards to, so you're getting into a few things. I mean, you're against factory farming, which is what was one of my questions, which we can get into. And you mentioned about supplementation, not sustainable. That was it. So are you referring to sustainability in the environmental sense or as in longevity sense?
Is being able to resource it. I mean,
Right.
you could, from some people that follow our content and what we talk about, you could consider me a prepper. You could consider me an extremist. There are issues that we see with regards to the availability of food. I mean, we saw food shortages and things over the last 4 years with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and other issues that have been brought on. I mean, factory farming is one of those issues. But if we're trying to bring things down to a point where it is sustainable, that foodstuffs are grown locally, that you can get all your nutrients where you are at, you can't do that with all of the nutrients that you need. With supplementation for veganism, for some of these supplements, you need to take those supplements, or you need to source them from places. I know B12, you can get it from like kelp or nori,
Mm.
and that is something that if you are, say, in the United States and you are landlocked, that's not really sustainable to be able to source.
Right. So we're talking about B12. So your issue with B12 supplements is only because they might be hard to obtain in a world where supply chains stop. Is that basically what you're saying here? Have I missed something?
Yeah.
Right. So until that happens, what would be wrong with relying on that until, because it wouldn't just one day to another stop. And if all of a sudden vegans couldn't be vegan anymore because supply chains fell down, vegans won't just die. It would be a survival situation. But until that moment, it's not. It would just be what exactly. I don't really understand the point of going and doing what you're doing when you can get the B12 right now. That's the only thing actually that you would need is B12 supplement. You can opt. You said you studied nutrition, so you've already, and you agree with Danny that you can obtain nutrients, every other nutrient otherwise. So I'm kind of Wait, maybe we can dig into that. I mean, let's keep things flowing, because we'll dig into that. I think the next thing, we'll come back to that in a moment. I want to talk more about
Yeah.
factory farming. So why are you against factory farming?
Because the way that animals are treated is despicable. I mean, there's a number of documentaries that I've seen over the years that I saw the way that animals are abused while their bodies are. You can see the pain. Animals can feel pain.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the difference between humans and animals is largely just consciousness. I think we personify animals quite a bit. We've created this arbitrary line of like, oh, dogs and cats are off limits, but cows and other animals are fine.
Mm-hmm.
For there's different reasons I believe that you can eat certain animals and different reasons not, and we can get into that
Yeah.
if you want. But I think it comes down to fundamentally where we disagree is that the point of death is whether death is good or not, whether it is necessary or not.
Right. And would you agree with me that most people support factory farming probably because they just don't think about what they're funding? Do you think that's probably the reason that they blindly
What do you
support
mean
it?
by support factory
Well,
farming?
they give their money to it every day. Majority of humans in the world actually they're funding the majority of farms in the world, which are factory farms. Not exactly all mega farms, but they're part of a massive industry. You aren't, for example, your farm, your homestead is not part of an industry. Whereas even small local farms, whatever small local, whatever they call themselves, that they are industry factories, just mini factory farms, right? And it's what the vast majority of people support and pay for. So do you agree with me that it's probably just that they don't think about it?
Yeah, I think it's largely that ignorance of people don't want to think about where their food comes
Right.
from and what happens
Yeah.
to it. I mean, I think it's a matter of fact that a lot of people know, and you would probably agree that when an animal is tortured, when an animal goes through pain, it releases certain chemicals. Your
Mhm.
brain releases certain chemicals if you are in pain. For me to eat those types of things is bad for me. It's bad energy, vibes, whatever you want to say. But also, there's phytochemicals and micronutrients that are released that are then bad for me that you don't want to have. So, what we do and what we advocate for is a proper, quick kill. You want something to die quickly without pain. But if you don't know where your food's coming from and people are living ignorantly, then you're not going to have a healthy life. You then are not receiving those proper nutrients. You're receiving those bad or improper nutrients.
So for you, the way of treating animals is a combination of two things. It's one, because you acknowledge that they are not so different from us and that they don't deserve to be treated badly, and it's also because you, as a few farmers say this as well, you think that the nutrients you would get from them and from the like secretions, milk, eggs, and their bodies, their flesh, it would be worse. So it's kind of both reasons that you would say to treat them better and not do what factory farms do to them. Okay. What do you think about this? Do you agree with me that in general that people prioritize taste and convenience over their own health and also over the ethics of doing these types of things to animals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a common theme in a lot of the articles that I sent you.
Right.
Was that people who are on a plant-based diet are generally healthier because of their meticulousness. They have to think about their diet. They actually have to have the conscious thought of it.
And so and most people are putting they just, oh, it's tasty, so I just want to eat that. I don't care if it's bad for me. I don't care if an animal was tortured to death. You agree with me? That's the vast majority of people that are in that bucket.
I don't think they're consciously having that thought, but I think that they're just living their lives, and that is just a happenstance of it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, basically, when pressed, these are some of the responses that we get when we go out there. So
Yeah.
so like with that all being the case, then, so if someone, I mean, the vast majority of people are in the position I'm about to put to you, that you live out in the sticks somewhere, right? You've given up kind of like a normal life to go and do what you do and to have it this way, because of what you agree with me on, right? So for the vast majority of people, that is not an option. That we have a massive population, and the majority of them are in cities, and their jobs are in cities, and their families are in cities. Everything's in cities, so they're not capable of doing what you're doing at all. So then, instead of funding factory farming in their cases, with everything that they have and where they're based, would you not agree with me that they should be trying to avoid animal products and eat plant-based based on that reason alone?
I think there's an important distinction as to what factory farming is, because I think, and even with regards to what veganism is, because I think or believe That, yes, absolutely. If you're in a city and you only have access to those things, absolutely. But factory farming is not just animals, there's also plants involved. So when factory farms, or when you are trying to think of with regards to the land to be able to feed eight, whatever, 8, 9 billion
Hmm.
people, there's just not enough land for it. Animals like ruminants, like cows, sheep, goats, have different digestive systems to be able to eat things that we can't eat as humans. They can digest the cellulose that we can't as humans. They have a different ability. And so for the um, population, which is currently about, what is it, 5% vegan, at least in the United
Probably
States it
less,
is.
yeah, overall,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for the population to switch from their protein, largely being beef, being other meat products, to switch that to then grow the necessary other products. What do you primarily consume for protein? Would it be
Um,
soybeans, legumes?
yeah, legumes, tofu, seitan sometimes. The gluten flour turn it into seitan. Nuts and seeds. Yeah, like a variety of that, I'd say mostly.
So to be able to grow those things require a vast amount of land
Hmm.
to grow, and land that is able to be cultivated. So for being able to grow things like cows, or raise things like cows, yeah, absolutely, don't raise them in feedlots, because animals are just being pumped full of hormones if they have issues, or they're just being pumped full of corn and things that are being grown just quick and garbage. So I fear that that's what would happen if we transition to a primarily plant-based population. If the popular culture changed such that we needed more of these legumes, more of these different types of proteins, well, now we have sacrificed one evil for the other. We have gone towards, we are having these large factory farms that are decimating our soil biology, and instead of abusing animals, we're now just abusing the land.
Yeah. As it stands, though, the feedlots is what is feeding the majority of animals, and they are what is then feeding all these people in cities with animal products. So as it stands, a plant-based system would be significantly better than that, wouldn't it? And so if people start consuming plant-based instead of supporting the factory farming and the feedlots, which, the land is decimated for those for the feed for those animals. You know that, right? So at the end of the day, if we imagine, if we have the exact same situation, imagine if we're decimating just as much land to feed the humans plant-based as we are currently to feed them animal products, except it's without the 80 to 100 billion animals, as you've agreed with me, being tortured to death in factory farms. Would that not be a better outcome? And is that not something that we can agree on, that actually we should
Oh
be
yeah.
pushing people, especially people in cities, which is the majority of people, right? They're condensed in these cities. Like we have, like I'm in Finland currently, and it's a tiny population. But if you go to the cities, it's like most of the population's there, right? So these are the ones who I would assume you'd be agreeing with me on this, should be eating plant based, because they can't access, by your ethics, they can't access the products the animal products the way you do it. So they should eat plant based. That's what I'm trying to get to. If we
But
can agree on that.
yeah, for sure. But then it
Okay.
comes back to the sustainability with regards to that diet, because plant based diets have the result of, like you said, necessitating supplementation. So
Right.
then if you ramp up supplementation, then you are now devastating ecosystems. You are having a ripple effect down the line that is different from, okay, well, a cow didn't die, but now I'm having devastating effects to other populations and other
But I'm
ecosystems.
not sure that's true, because the supplements industry is a monstrous industry, and vegans only make up around 1% of the population. So I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's already a monstrous industry. I don't see how more B12 would make it like significantly worse than it already is. People taking B12 all over the world already, and they're taking actually multivitamins and all these different supplements. I mean, these industries are already huge. I can't, I don't see how adding just the B12 supplements to that is suddenly going to make it a lot worse. And also, regarding the farms themselves, again, we're talking, when we consider fish in this mix as well, we're talking trillions of animals. I can't imagine B12 supplementation is having anywhere near as much impact on animals as animal agriculture has on animals. 3 trillion animals a year. You think B12 supplementation can match that?
But then you're having to factor in raising more crops. If you're raising more crops for humans, you're going to be killing more animals in those
We
fields,
can do that
which is why,
without that
again,
though, can't we? We can do that without that. You can't.
how
So how can we do, like, grow crops
if you
without?
if
Yeah, go on.
If you are, yeah, it could, because if you are cultivating at a large scale, you are then going and mowing through all of these, and that's again a trope that anti-vegans like to throw at people,
Right.
is you are going through and you are killing rabbits and you're killing gophers and you're killing voles,
Yeah.
which then is another issue.
Yeah.
Is you are, if your stance as a vegan is, oh, I don't want anything to be hurt, but if you're not growing your own food, and these farmers, which comes back to one of our issues, these farmers are in it for the money, they don't care about animals, they don't care about soil biology.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you still have issues with animals are still being killed for your food. It's just different. It didn't die in a slaughterhouse. It died in the field.
Right. But I guess the point, I guess what we're trying to get past here is that I feel like what you're arguing is that a plant-based world, if everyone in cities started eating plant-based, basically you're arguing it would just be just as bad for animals as everybody in the cities eating what they're eating right now, which is what basically 100% animal products. And I don't think that I can't, that seem, I don't, if you're making that argument the way I've just explained it, I don't think you are, because I don't think you seem smarter than that, because that is, we're talking, like I said, trillions of animals. So a plant-based system, first of all, if people get on board with being against the disgraceful factory farms because they care about animals, first of all, it's going to be much easier to get them on board with developing technology and better systems for growing plants. Because if we can get people to care about the pig, the sheep, the cow, the chicken, and this horrible things that happen to them, it'll be much easier to start getting them to care about all these other animals that crop farmers end up killing, and then demanding a better system there. But you're not going to get them to demand a better plant growing system while they're still happy to pay for someone to torture a pig in a gas chamber, which is how pigs are killed pretty much everywhere in the world. So again, I'm not, you're not winning me with this kind of scare. It's the scary future of plant-based cities. I feel like even if it were as in effect, I suppose, as unsustainable as you're saying, it would still be a significant improvement on what the situation is now. I thought this would be a real easy thing for us to agree on, actually.
For what?
That for city, we're focusing on cities right now, on people who can and people who don't have access to the places like yours. I thought it would just be a straight up easy to agree, yes, they should eat plant-based, because factory farming is abhorrent, and any plant-based system is better than factory farming animals. I thought we could agree on that right off the bat.
I think the disconnect is that I've largely never been in a city. I think the biggest city I've been to was Calgary, which isn't very, I guess I've been to New York City, but my experience in cities there would be lacking. So I'm not sure with regards to the population density and thereby the consumption. From what I see is the issue of waste. And I think a lot of those trillions of animals that are being slaughtered are for naught, because they go towards waste products. They're going to slaughter and then they're rotting on the shelves and people just aren't buying them. So again, it comes back to that sustainability portion that, like, hey, these trillions of animals don't need to die, period. Yes, you can still care about the animals, but don't waste them. That is a disservice to the spiritual nature of that animal.
Okay. So okay. But we need to decide if we're going to agree or not on this point before we can move on. Is again,
should people in cities primarily eat fruits and vegetables? Yes.
Right. Okay. Because
but so should everybody.
Right. So should everybody. That's a bigger claim than I said.
People.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, I'm with you on it. I'm just surprised.
So with regards to diet and nutrition, your body needs more fruits and vegetables than it does meat. It's just a matter of fact. You don't need as much meat. However, with regards to the density and the ability to raise the amount of meat, you don't need a massive field as big as you would for your legumes and your inputs and the work that goes into raising crops. You don't need as much as you would a cow that just lives in a field. So again, it comes back to that sustainability portion, but people in cities, should absolutely be primarily eating plant-based. And we're huge advocates for hydroponic systems, towers, vertical growing, because it's something that allows to be able to grow those things. But then it comes back to being able to receive these nutrients. B12 is one of them, your vitamin D3, iron, which was another supplement that seems to be named in almost every article that talks about veganism or vegetarian diets.
Well, you think that those articles were saying that they found people to be lacking in those vitamins because they weren't eating properly, and
either they weren't eating properly or they found that people who don't pay enough attention,
right.
Which I think you would agree that not everybody has the time to pay attention. Some omnivores don't have time to pay attention, but I think that as a vegan, Yeah, well, they just don't care. A lot of people don't care where their food
Yeah,
comes from.
that's it.
So with the small portion of the population that already is vegan, or people who are thinking about vegan, there's a reason they want to do that.
Yeah.
But then they have to think about where their food comes from, which then they're thinking about where to get these supplements from.
Right. And presently, that's not an issue for the vast majority of people because these supplements are inexpensive. B12 is the only one, and it's inexpensive. I even actually researched this back when I was in India for a while, living in India, which is obviously a developing country. And I did some numbers, and people were saying they needed to drink milk for B12. And I actually found out that if just taking the supplement would be, I think it was like a third of the cost of getting the equal amount of B12 from drinking milk. Because actually milk in general is not the superfood everybody says it is. Seems to be like people say it's got loads of protein, it's got loads, and it actually doesn't actually have that much protein, and it doesn't have that much B12 as well. So in that case, and that was India, and I was looking at B12 supplements on, it was Amazon or something like that, and they ended up being, like I said, actually cheaper for people, more economically viable than drinking milk for B12, and that's in a country that's developing. They need to know that. They need to know that because for them, it's the difference between, these people have very, very limited money, so they need to be putting it in places where they can get as much nutrition as possible for the minimal spend. But anyway, we agree. So we agree. I'm glad we agree that the people in the cities around the world should be eating plant-based, and that is a massive, massive amount of people. We're talking hundreds of millions of people. So I'm glad you agree with me that hundreds of millions of people should be eating plant-based because of the moral issues that we agree on when it comes to animals and factory farming. Now, how they do that and how they make that environmentally sustainable is another debate altogether, and I guess that's really not what we're here for. I suppose what we're here for, I was hoping to get through the big ideas and the morals and the ethics around things. We probably need people smarter than us to crunch the numbers on how to ensure that can be done in a good way, but as we agree, it's significantly better than what is happening to animals in factory farms. That needs to end, and we both agree on that, which is good. But I do still now want to get on to a discussion about yourself and personally your farm, because look, at the end of the day, the reason that we're here today is not because I think that, put it this way, if you weren't putting the videos out that you put out, and if you hadn't made those comments that you made, if you were doing your homesteading and just you and your family, I'd never know about you. And even if I found out about you, I wouldn't come protesting at your front door, because that would be dumb. Because at the end of the day, what you do in a year, some of these factory farms are doing in a day or an hour, even in some of these factory slaughterhouses. So I just want to make that clear to people watching that this is by no means a vegan coming after some guy who's just doing his own thing. The reason that we're here today is because of the propaganda that you put out, which are you still there? Sorry, I think we've cut out. We lost you. Guys, can you still hear me? Seems to be frozen. But I don't know if it's my connection or your connection. Okay, it's his connection. Sorry, guys. While we are waiting, I'll check your comments and just see. Daniel's asking if you become a veganic farmer. We'll get to it, Daniel. I've got some things I'd like to say. This was a good moment. Yeah. Okay, wait. He's kind of back. I think his connection's just a bit sketchy. Can we hear you? Hello?
Did I lose you?
Oh,
Dave?
yeah. We've got your audio, but we haven't got your video. Can you hear me? No, can't hear me. Maybe refresh the. Oh, he can't hear me, so there's no point saying anything.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I was just about to say if you could refresh the page, but it looks like your internet might have dropped significantly. You are a load of pixels right now. Is like like we're talking like PlayStation 2 level graphics right now. Just a load of boxes. Is it do you have like multiple Wi-Fi's you could connect to? Is there a better one maybe, or?
It should be the best network.
All right. We can kind of see you. Honestly, it's like, it's really, no, you're cutting in and out. It's not gonna, I guess if the audio keeps going, we can continue. If you can still hear me, I can kind of hear you. Maybe you could try turn off the video for a little bit. Someone's just suggested maybe just the audio. See if it helps. Hey, so can you hear me now? No. Shit. Well, that sucks. We were just getting into
Yep.
it. Oh, you can hear me now. No, there's a big delay. That's what the problem is.
I might need to keep my video off.
Yeah, it's not going. Try refreshing the page. Guys, stick around if you're still watching. Okay, don't go anywhere because we still have a lot to talk about, and we've still got a lot to get into, and we're just kind of getting started actually. So please stick around and let us just fix this problem, and we'll be back in. Sure, we can get things up and running again. Because we've not really fully touched on the ethical side of things and the moral side of things. Just wanted to kind of, see where we agreed in the beginning, and then, oh no, there's two of them now. Oh, right, it seems to be working now. You've refreshed, but now your old one is still there for some reason. Let me just kick out the old you. And also, you're muted. I'll unmute you in a minute. I'll just quickly get rid of this other one. How do I get rid of this other guy? See, oh, I can click allow. Yeah. No, it's still not coming through. 1 minute. Okay, there you go. This is frustrating as hell.
There, we should be back.
Yes, we are back, but I'm just trying to kick out the other. There's two of you here. I need to kick one of you out. There we go. All right, there we go. We got you back. All right, so everything's working. You can hear me okay? Right, it's all good?
Yep.
Cool. Could you put your hand down, your little hand up icons on the screen? And then I think we're good. All right, great. So what I was just saying was, yeah, I was going through why, as that you wouldn't be a target or whatever, you wouldn't be on the channel if it weren't for the videos, if it weren't for the comments. Now, obviously, we've dealt with most of those comments, and what I did say is that the video itself and the comments were anti-vegan propaganda. And that's what brought you onto my channel. Now, the video I've already been through was anti-vegan propaganda because you, in that video that you made, when you gave you gave the cuddles and the pig, and your friends were doing it too, there was no mention in that video of, by the way, this is not factory farming. This is not how 99% of animals are treated. This is how me and my 3 friends do, we do with animals, right? So that video came out, and that was propaganda. That was showing people, hey, look, animals have a great time. Now I'm going to go to the shop and buy a steak. So it needed to be responded to. It needed a response to balance out the propaganda in there. And then the comments saying vegans are starving, and this is what led us to this point, right? So I want to make it clear that, and we've dealt with that because you don't believe that. I don't know why you said that if you don't believe that. Maybe we can talk about that as well. But I want to make it clear before we get into this next part that, again, the reason you're here is not because I don't think any vegan should be considering you as like, oh, let's target this guy. It's only because of the channel. It's only because of the videos that you make yourself a target to be debunked. Because, well, how can vegans who care about animals see that and not say something, right? You've got to understand that. So in terms of the claims of like vegans are starving and stuff, why did you say that if you agree that that's not actually the case, and actually you would like people in cities to be eating plant-based?
So in large part, especially with regards to social media, it's hard to get across a proper debate like this. This is a great conversation on social media, and even what some of you post and some of the stuff, it's rage bait. It's stuff where you're going to get a reaction, you're going to get those comments, and you're going to get the response, the desired response, either because it's forwarding an agenda or it's making you money. I knew exactly what that video was going to do when I posted it. And the comment came from a place of, I know when I worked with people who were trying to go vegetarian, who were trying to go vegan, that they struggled to do so. Even after those comments, I received some personal messages because people, and that goes back to the common theme of cultism within the vegan community, which we talked about, you're not, but people who tried to go vegan for personal moral reasons, and they did so either with a nutritionist, with a doctor, and then they struggled to do so and ended up starving themselves. I was vegetarian for, and starving is like probably the wrong terminology. They were not properly considering their nutrition, their macros, their micronutrients that they needed to be able to have proper nutrition for that diet. And they found that when they switched to a omnivorous diet, when they introduced meat back into their diet, that they found that they felt better. And the same thing with my wife. My wife was vegan for 10 years. When we met, she couldn't so much as touch meat, which was weird to me because I had been buying from a local farm for the last 5 to 10 years. And even store-bought meat just makes me sick. So I cannot eat it. And she found that when she started reintroducing poultry, when she started reintroducing beef, she started to lose some of these symptoms that were tied to her eating style.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let me repeat that back so I make sure I understand. You can tell me if I'm wrong. So the reason that you made those comments saying that it was the vegans, it's severe malnutrition and starvation, and something, the other comment you made was something like a weird way to show you love animals, starving yourself of essential nutrition or something like that. Knowing that you can get the nutrition, knowing that you can be healthy, your reason for saying that was just because you've met people that didn't do it healthily. And so you made those comments. Am I right? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but that's your entire claim too, as well, is it not?
Which
That you know people who can live sustainably on. You can live sustainably as a vegan. So when you know people who can, and I know people who can't, that we're just at odds with regards to hearsay.
Right. But this would be like me coming on your page and saying vegans are always healthy. Vegans are always smashing it, that would be wrong because they're not. When you came on my page, you said vegans are starving and vegans are malnutritioned, and it's a weird way to show how you love animals. Like it was a claim that basically you were saying it is not possible to be a healthy vegan, was what you were saying, which is not what you believe. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of like what it's more understanding you and understanding why people in general who know the real truth, why do they say these things? Like what exactly is the driver behind it?
That's the problem with social media at large, is that people are commenting just bullshit stuff.
Right.
Not necessarily in my case, but with regards to things that are going to give a rise. I know exactly what that comment was going to do, and it did what it was supposed to do. I knew what that video was going to do, but the same with regards to your video. The only reason I commented on it is because you tagged me in it, because you brought me into this conversation.
Right.
I didn't bring you into it. So the only reason that I was on your page at all was because you called me a liar. And then I countered that with the experience with whom I've seen that vegans have had issues,
right,
that vegans have struggled. Vegans have problems with regards to nutrition in my experience and the people that I've dealt with.
right.
And that is not to say, and that's hard to get across. I mean, I think Instagram has a limit. I could have said all of those things, but after being called a liar, of course you're going to get emotional with regards to that, with a very quick and try to be witty with a response.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, I guess what I would say is that as a person you're putting yourself out there as a kind of leader in this, and you care about animals enough to be against factory farming. I mean, all I would say to that is yeah, you're going to have vegans that come after you and maybe don't understand what you're trying to do and don't agree with you. Like, I don't agree with what you do to animals. Let's make that 100% clear, but we can agree on other things. Do you not think would it not be a good idea to actually, put it this way, if you want a better world for animals, I'd say it would be a much better idea, rather than saying things like that vegans are starving and vegans are malnutrition, because that puts people off being better for animals. Like I said, the majority of people live in cities, and you agree with me that they shouldn't be eating animals.
Those two things are not.
Well, hold on, because
Sorry.
the comment that you made influences people to think that they can't be a vegan because they'll die of malnutrition. So there is a link here. There's a contradictory kind of position from you, and you're not helping yourself or animals when you tell people that they're going to die of starvation. And I'm glad you don't believe they do, by the way. But this is what I'm saying, that with what you believe and what you put out, it should be the same, shouldn't it? Your goal, what you put into the world, should be going towards your goal. I mean, I know we all make mistakes. I'm not saying like everyone's perfect. I'm just pointing out that like it was. Speaking to you now and reading those comments is two very different goals. The comments read as an anti-vegan who, fuck vegans. You here now say, oh, actually, I think a lot of people should be eating plant-based and probably vegan, because actually I want a better world for animals too. So there's a big difference in the two, isn't there? The two personalities.
Well, with regards to the comment itself, again, you can't say as much as you want to say. And if you go back on my page with regards to what we've preached on and what we've talked about, the 2 seasons of the show, we talk
Right.
about the issues, and it's the what we're going into this year is to meet small farmers and why they do what they do,
Right.
because we want to get out that information. And I
Right.
think that extremism, and again, going back to the issue of cultism within the vegan community, that it can be a problem for people, that people have an emotional response like I elicited and what you elicit in a lot of your content, and that people end up being one way or the other without thinking.
Hmm.
People are emotional, but I don't necessarily regret what I said because it brought on to have this conversation here today.
Hmm.
And I think that it's important that people recognize why they are vegan. Are they just sad that animals are dying? They don't want animals to die. I believe from a physiological standpoint, there are people, and like I said in my messages, I got people who said, I was a vegan, I wanted to be, I don't like things dying. I worked with my doctor for 2 years to go vegan. I worked with my doctor 2 years while I was vegan, and then I had a 2 year period of coming off. So I believe physiologically people are different.
Hmm.
And I think you said that you've been vegan or vegetarian for the majority of your life.
Vegan my whole life, and vegetarian my whole life, and vegan for like 14, 15 years. Yeah.
So I would wager on a physiological level, you are different than the normal person who is going to go from a plant or from a omnivorous diet, from eating meat to switching. And it's not just the information, I think on a physiological level. And same thing if people are going to a keto diet, going to carnivore, which is crazy. It has health benefits, but so does veganism, so does vegetarianism. So it's being able to have that knowledge and understanding that you have grown up in, and you are fortunate to have all of that information that you have had for 20 some years. I have no idea how old you are. And so we want to help people understand, and we want to help people understand that just stopping eating meat is not sustainable. It's not good for your body. It can result in other health effects. That's not just necessarily nutritional deficiencies. It can have other problems within your system. So understanding and knowing and being able to do that properly takes consultation more than a comment or more than a sensational video on the internet can really influence you.
Right. So you're talking about people stopping eating meat and not replacing the nutrients here. That you're saying that's going to cause them issues. That's what you're referring to, right?
In some cases, yes.
Right. So if somebody stops any food group and doesn't replace the calories and nutrition, they're going to be sick. Unless you're trying to tell me there's something magical in meat that doesn't exist anywhere else, or you're talking about very, very rare cases where people have like
Right.
absorption issues with non-animal based stuff. But that's anyway. Let's just cover your point here anyway. So. First of all, you're talking about people that have worked with doctors and then for whatever reason couldn't make plant-based diet work. I don't know what kind of doctors they're working with, and I'm not going to try and guess, but I will tell you that the vast majority of doctors have next to no nutritional training. So working with a doctor on diet means absolutely, you're literally, you might as well be working with a bloody influencer on Instagram. You know, like they
That I agree with you.
right. So there we go. So we're there. I mean, and there are plant-based dietitians and nutritionists, and there are non-plant-based dietitians and nutritionists actually who understand more about plant-based nutrition than any doctor ever would. There are doctors out there who aren't vegan, like Dr. Ids, for example, who's like a big Instagram influencer, who acknowledges that, you know, plant-based is absolutely fine and people can be healthy on it. The vast majority that maybe don't have some like weird condition or something, which is the vast majority of people, can be healthy on it. You've got Renaissance Periodization, Dr. Mike Israetel, his name is, massive bodybuilder guy. He's done videos where he has ripped into this notion that vegans can't build muscle, and he's proven it with data and logic that yes, they absolutely can. So we have people out there who actually know what they're talking about, not a random doctor, and they're more equipped to help somebody like this person who messaged you versus what I'm assuming was if it was a doctor and not a nutritionist or a dietitian, then most likely they weren't getting the right assistance, and the doctor was just telling them to eat meat, which is what most doctors do. You come in, they go, oh, I'm a vegan, I'm plant-based, oh, I'm feeling a bit this, I'm a bit that. Doctor goes, yeah, you need to eat meat. They have no idea what they're talking about. So I think that's, if anyone is experiencing any kind of problem and they need some professional help for whatever it is, they should be speaking to people that actually know what they're talking about. That's the first thing. But you can probably avoid that as a vegan if you're going to become a vegan, or if you're going to start eating. obviously, to just establish this really quickly, being a vegan is taking a stance against animal abuse and animal exploitation. Eating a plant-based diet is eating a plant-based diet. So they're two different things, but I'm kind of flipping between them, but we'll stick to just plant-based diet for now. If you're going to decide to eat a plant-based diet, one of the first things you should be doing, you're learning a new language. It's a new language. You've not been born with it. It's like starting to learn, I don't know, like German if you speak English. It's kind of similar. There's a lot of similarities between English and German, but you still gotta learn it, right? So you got to download an app like Chronometer. You got to start watching and subscribing to plant-based dietitians and plant-based people that can help you with what to cook and how to cook and where to get the nutrition from and what to do. You need to relearn how to eat and how to live. If you don't do that, then I agree with you, Ben. You're going to end up with problems, and you're going to end up going to have to pay money or go and see some specialists because you've messed up and you've not learned it properly. So we agree there, but there's not a reason to not do it, and it's definitely not a reason to kind of make a grand statement like vegan starve, right? Which I think we have got to the point where we agree and we can move on from that, right? So with let's just dive into this now. The claim in your video that I responded to, and by the way, for those watching, there was another follow-up video as well, where a couple of vegans were criticizing you for not showing the slaughter, and so you did a video where you showed animals that you had killed, and I believe as one part of this video you said you really enjoyed one of them as well, which surprised me. I got to be honest. I'm not sure if you were just doing another rage bait here. You said I really enjoyed this one. The video you made where you were responding to the vegans who were annoyed at you for not showing the full process. It was you killed 2 deer, I think, and you said, this one I really enjoyed, or something like that, which again, I said surprised me, but I guess it was rage bait now, hearing how you're speaking.
I don't believe I said that, but let me...
Yeah, check it. Check it back. It stood out to me as quite like a brutal thing to say. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? The one where it was...
Oh, yeah. I got it right here. Yeah. I'm just trying to read the...
All right, man. And guys, if you got questions and stuff, you can try and like tag me or you can send them through. Guys, if you've got questions, send them through with Super Chat or Streamlabs. Yeah. Do it that way, and I'll catch up at the end, okay? So you got that bit, right? So...
Yeah.
Okay.
So the felt really good portion was after, you're right, it was talking about the deer.
Okay.
And it wasn't about the killing or the butchery. It was with regards to having the meat for the family. I think hunting for me is something that's new. It's something that even I would believe is even more sustainable than raising farm animals. So to be able to, that was my first deer, to be able to hunt it myself, to be able to butcher it myself was something very rewarding. And that was what I was alluding to. Not that I enjoyed the kill necessarily, or even the butchery, but that I enjoyed having that meat and having that sustenance for our family for the winter.
Right. I understand. It's just the video was about butchery. So that's why it came off as that you enjoyed the butchery. Yeah. So let's dive into the claim that you made in your first video. So the claim was you made it we farmers, we love our animals. Now, let's just clarify. Were you actually referring to just you and your friends, or were you saying in general farmers love their animals in that video?
I would say the unfortunate majority of farmers, and I try to make a proper distinction between farmers and agricultural grow ops, because there's people on both sides. I think people who raise animals in horrible conditions, I would consider that a grow op. If you're raising animals that are abused, that are in tiny little cages, that are kept in their own feces, that's not a farm. That's a grow op. We grow up and we learn about, McDonald had a farm. He had all of these different types of animals. And that's what I consider a farmer. It's with regards to language. It's why tends to be a little bit of confusion talking about plant-based versus vegan, because they're two different ideologies and they're two different things. One's a diet and one is an ideology.
Right.
And so I think it's very important to recognize that true farmers, and I think I said that in the comment, that true farmers and people whom I believe are true farmers, and I've had people come at me for this before, is that farmers actually care about their animals and care about what happens on their farm. They care about their crops, they care about, but there are other circumstances that happen, and there are people who are in it just for the money. But true farmers, so you're right, not 100% of farmers, or what people would say, not 100% of people who grow food care about their animals. You would be correct.
Yeah, so you're referring to, when you say farmers, you don't think that the vast majority of farmers could be classed as farmers. You would consider them as like what, factory operators, more or less.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So in that sense, then, but the majority of people, when they see and hear the word farmer, that's what they think. They're thinking, well, it's the vast majority of farmers provide the vast majority of animal products for the vast majority of people. You wouldn't even consider those people farmers, because it's like over 90% of animal products that get to the shops are from people that you would say they're factory operators. They're not even farmers. Right. So they don't love their animals.
That's a hefty claim. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that there are extenuating circumstances that make it such that people have to consider the financial implication. This is going to, I don't want to ramble. People often care about animals, but make stupid mistakes and make bad decisions. I think that they're, especially in our current world, we're thinking about money. It's why some of this has been a talk about money with regards to purchasing those supplements, with regards to buying meat, buying plants, buying animals where we buy ours. And so I think that there are people and there are farmers who genuinely care about their animals that are stuck in that system, whether it's a multi-generational farm, whether it's a farm that they started and they're like, hey, this pays the bills, but in order for me to be able to sell to these massive conglomerates, these massive grocery stores, we need to ramp things up and we got to cut things somewhere. And unfortunately, often where things get cut is where the humans end. And it starts with the animals, and that's where the issues begin.
So I would say those people that if that's the situation they're in, where their financial situation means they have to treat animals horrendously bad, I would say that they should pack up shop and do something else.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So with regards to love then, with regards to loving their animals, how are you defining that? Because love, a lot of people think love is something, everyone's got their own meaning of the word. Love and care, what does that mean to you?
With regards to our animals, I think English does a disservice to the word love because there's a lot of other languages that have like 40 different words for the word love. Mm-hmm. So it's easier to distinguish between loving my wife, loving my kids, loving whatever, my animals. And so when it comes to loving my animals, I want them to feel no pain, that if they're sick, of course, I want to take them to the vet. I want to make sure that they are well. I want to make sure that they are kept well. I want to keep them in a habitat that is conducive for them, that protects them. It's why often we have fences or cages for our rabbits, because we want to protect them from being hurt by other animals. If we just let all our animals loose, the coyotes would get them, the wolves would get them, there'd be problems in nature.
Connection has...
I want to be able to protect and care for my animals. So when it comes to love, I want my animals to have...
Go on. Yeah, you're back now. You're back. You said I want my animals to have, and then we've got you back now.
I want my animals to have the best lives as they can. They're spoiled. They often eat food that comes from the grocery store that gets thrown away by the grocery store, that's wasted, that goes to them. Sometimes they have a better diet than I do, and they're much better kept than I do or than I am. And so I want my animals to have the best life while they're here. Mm-hmm. And for me to be able to do that means that coming right up to the very end, that it is painless. We say that if you can even say that, they have one bad day and it's the very end. And I would liken it to, I would very much liken it to if your grandmother was on her deathbed, if somebody had a traumatic brain injury that you are now considering pulling the plug, where do you fall on that? Do you let them live in a state of peril? Do you let them live? And that can be a point of contention, I think, for some people.
Right.
You want somebody to live, you care about them, you love them, but what are you going to do in that situation?
Yeah. So to be clear here, like, okay, you brought grandma into this, not me, because vegans get accused of making comparisons between humans and animals all the time as if we're crazy. Yeah. But you brought this, so I'm happy to go with it. But just to be clear for everybody watching, I didn't bring the human comparison up. Ben did. Okay, the farmer did it. Just to be clear, but now it's here. Now that's out. Let's run with that. Your comparison would make sense if grandma was purchased. She was a slave, and I purchased her from another owner, and then I exploited grandma, treated her well, but she worked for me. Right? She had no choice. She wasn't free. That's it. And then I protected her because I'm protecting my asset. She's my asset, right? So no one else can exploit grandma. Only I can exploit grandma. Only I can use grandma. And imagine if I don't know if I want to eat her, but like no, wait, foxes, coyotes, you're not allowed to eat her. She's mine. I'm eating grandma. It's mine, right? So all of this defense, all of this, you said this love and defense is all dependent on her belonging to you, and being your property. If it weren't the case, then you wouldn't be protecting the animals. You wouldn't be protecting grandma. And then when grandma's old, and like you say, you euthanize, but to make it analogous, to make this comparison make sense, you would have to add all the other stuff. It's not like just we need to now kill grandma because she's really old and she's not with it anymore and she's in pain, and so we euthanize. Well, she's lived a whole free life, and that's a totally different. It's a different situation. That's euthanasia. We do that for pet dogs too. When they've lived with us, we've cared for them. We've not had them with the aim of milking them or eating them. It's been a loving relationship that's benefited them, especially if you rescued the dog from somewhere. But in your case, you purchased them. You actually funded the system that they're forced into when you did this. So as much as I agree with you that, okay, yeah, the things you're doing are good for them while they're there, the reason for them being there isn't good. And then what you'll do to them later isn't good, despite what you do during that time when they're there. So just to go over that last bit with the grandma comparison, I wanted to clarify that. And I want to talk about this situation. So I've seen your videos, right? And
can I, Rick, just a second?
Yeah,
can
sorry,
I retort on
I
that
didn't know you had
second?
something. Yeah, I thought you wanted to.
Yeah, so there's an important distinction between the personification of animals and humans.
Oh, hold on. You can't do this now.
I know
you did it first. Come on, man. You can't now pull it back.
That is with regards to the end result, what is happening at the end. So with regards to personification and the rest of it, which you then you just walked it back.
Yeah.
There's a major difference between animals and humans with regards to the rest of that, because animals are different on a physiological and a psychological level.
Okay.
So when it comes to the end, the emotional aspect of the love of letting someone go is the same as that type of ending, that death is being able to pull the trigger, so to speak. But when it comes to the rest of it, same thing with taking care of your family. You wouldn't take care of somebody else's family necessarily. You would prioritize your family. So you don't necessarily prioritize your kids or your wife. You don't classify them as property. They are part of your family, are they not?
Sure.
So they're not property. They are part of your family. They live a different life because physiologically they are different. They live somewhere else. They live in the woods as our pigs do, and different grazing animals live on grass because we don't want to sit them at the table. If we were to sit them at the table, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
we want to house them in.
I've no issue with them sitting at the table and stuff. I have an issue with kind of acting as or speaking as if you're their savior because you're saving them from the cruel outside when you're the reason they are here in the first place, because you paid somebody to breed them so you could then have them in your home and then kill them. So it's the purpose. The purpose of their existence is all for you, not for them. And to act like it's for them is disingenuous, I think, because it's for you. It's for you and your family to benefit from them. It's nothing to do with them and their life. You've not rescued them. You're not a sanctuary.
But if it's nothing to do with them, then why would I care for them at all?
Well, that's the question.
I should have every right.
That's the question. I was hoping to get to that actually.
Well, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Why do you care for them at all? That's the question. Yeah, why bother?
Because animals, though physiologically and just different than humans, animals do feel pain. They do have. There have been studies that showed that animals feel pain. They have emotions, but on the level of consciousness, animals and humans are different. We have the ability to have this conversation, to be able to converse about life and death, and animals don't have that. Animals aren't aware of their own existence. They can recognize when things go away. They can recognize changes and patterns, and they can have pack mentality. But from a animalistic perspective, it is not human to take care of anybody else's family. It's not human to be able to take care of or it's not natural. Sorry, I misspoke. It's not natural to take care of somebody else's family.
Yeah.
It's natural to take care of your family, survival of the fittest. It's natural to protect your kin and your things, if you will, at all costs.
Right.
And that's not necessarily animalistic.
No, sure. I don't think I'm making the argument that it's wrong to only protect your own family. I'm making the argument that it's it's a strange and disingenuous to kind of play it off as if it's some kind of sanctuary situation where you're keeping them safe. You are the danger. The coyote is the danger, and so are you. Now, the coyote is not going to let them grow and get big enough so they have a better meal, but you are. That's the only difference between you and the coyote, is that you make sure they're happy. You have more of a gentle touch, let's say, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing as the coyote would. You're both going to turn them into a meal. I had a point and it's gone. It was based on what you said, but I guess we can move. Oh, that was it. Sorry. Yeah. Your argument about we can perceive the future and the past, and we can have this conversation. There is a very big distinction between us and other animals, for sure. But it is a distinction based on genetics. It's DNA, basically. That's the only thing that separates a chicken from a human, right? It's just they were born with different DNA, different genetics. And I don't think for a second that you would sit there and tell me that who lives or who dies, that decision should be based on genetics. Because you don't need me to tell you that if you go down that road, we end up sounding very similar to some other very bad people, right? So I don't think that's where you want to go with this. But that is what you're saying, basically. That is what you're saying. Because they're a chicken and they don't have that perception of what we do. Because they're a cow or a pig, they don't have that perception. That means it's okay for me to trade in their lives and keep them here and grow them until they get big and then kill them and eat them because of that difference in genetics.
Saying that it's only genetics is an oversimplification, because there's a lot that goes into something being grown more than genetics. You have environmental factors, you have a lot of things that determine you are and how you become it. And that can go back, you could go all the way back to creation then, and then talk about how things became to be and how things are allowed to eat each other. But again, it comes back to the difference in consciousness. We are different than animals, and it has nothing necessarily to do with regards to genetics.
It's the only difference. Level. It's the only difference. The only reason you have emotions is genetics.
I think that's where we would disagree.
Oh yeah,
though.
Okay. Why do you think you have emotions?
Well, that depends on what you mean. What are emotions then?
I suppose,
are emotions are emotions then just a chemical? If you are trying to pull this back and strip this down to the very simplistic, this is just an emotional reaction. This is just a chemical reaction that happens in your body. Then sure, that's what emotions are. But from a consciousness perspective, from a spiritual perspective, we believe and we understand that we are here for a different purpose. That's why we're able to have this conversation. That's why we're able to discuss life and death. Coyotes don't think about life and death. Cows don't think about life and death.
Right.
Am I losing you again?
A little bit, yeah, but it's okay. It's back again now.
And so to just say that it is genetics is a disservice to what we are as human, and a disservice to what animals are as animals. They are as different and beautiful from us than my family is from me. But it's not just genetics. We are different on a spiritual level. And if you don't believe in spirituality, then I think we have a disconnect with regards to the foundation of being.
So you believe, so you agree with me that the only difference between us physically is genetics. We agree that the difference, your brain is more advanced because you were born in a human body. You have human DNA, and therefore most humans have the advanced brain thanks to being humans. And a lot of other animals don't have that, because they are not human, and humans are unique. That's why we rule the world, because we have this unique mutation, evolution, whatever you want to call it. Even you could say it was done by God, whatever. It comes down to biology. It comes down to our brains are built this way, and they don't have that. But you're adding something on top of that you're saying, well, actually, it's not just that is important. You're saying that we have advanced spiritual energy or an advanced spiritual way that they don't have. So what your point is, you're saying because they aren't as, let's say, spiritually enlightened as we are, that's what makes it okay to do what we do to them.
It comes down to animals and humans being different on multiple planes. To take it down to two characteristics of spirit and genetics is, again, a disservice to what animals are and how they spend their lives. It'd be a disservice to say that you are just a pile of genetics with a spirit.
Yeah.
Like, that's just offensive to try to liken you to all that is you, because what makes up David is so much more: your experiences, your life, your what you have done and what you will do. Right, being able the impact that you have had on your family, the impact that you will have in the future.
Sure.
But the only way that we can have that is with consciousness, because 2 generations down the road for an animal is not going to have that.
So let me simplify it, but use an umbrella term so it doesn't just come down to 2 characteristics then. So, okay, whether it's spiritual, physical, or something that is just not tangible, what you're saying, what I feel like you're saying, I'm trying to get, the reason I'm saying these things is I'm trying to see what you'll agree with so I understand, right? It's not that I'm saying these things. So when you say like, oh, it's offensive to say that, it's like, okay, let's keep going then. So we get to the point where actually you feel good about it. So in general, what I feel is being said, it's superiority, whatever it is, spiritual, physical, otherworldly. It's that humans are superior and the animals are inferior. And you could call it any one of those categories, like spiritual or whatever. But is that, could you sign off on that? Is that what it is? It's that they are inferior to us in one way or another, or multiple ways, and that's why it's okay to do this to them.
For the sake of argument, yes.
Right. Okay. So it's a superiority point then. And to that, again, I'm assuming good things about you because you seem like not an asshole. So I'll assume a good thing again. I'll assume that you don't believe that if someone is physically stronger than someone else, then that gives them the right to hurt them. Or that if someone is more intelligent than someone else, that gives them the right to hurt them. Or if someone is more spiritual than someone else, it gives them the right to hurt the other person, right? I'd assume you don't believe that. And then I would assume the reason you don't believe that is because you take humans aside. So it's humans, and humans, the line is humans, and it's all of our other animals under that line.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But ultimately, it is still a point from just believing that you are superior. And so why not draw that distinction between humans as well? Why not say, why are you drawing the line from humans and other animals? Like, what exactly is it then? Because we've gone through, you've said it's not really that the genetic argument, it's not really the spiritual argument, it's a general superiority. So I feel like we're not really getting to the bottom of it, are we? It's I'm just generally superior, but not with humans though. It doesn't count for humans, it only counts for them. So,
but you've now gone from 2 things down to 1 thing, and the superiority of it just being human, which again oversimplifies it.
Right.
Because what I said was it comes to consciousness.
So it's conscious.
Humans have consciousness, and we have the right and the duty to be able to care for these animals. And it depends on your religious background and what you want to believe. I mean, if you're Christian, you believe in the Adam and Eve and that God charged Adam and Eve in taking care of the animals and whatnot. But we have that moral superiority. We believe that we are better than animals for whatever reason, because you would say the same thing, that it's just moral superiority. And you're saying, but what if you're adding in these clauses that if a human was mentally deficient, why couldn't we then be superior?
Many humans in that position.
Pardon? Yeah.
Yeah. But you wouldn't.
But the difference.
Yeah, go on.
Exactly. And the difference there lies in consciousness, is the ability to perceive our existence.
Right. And if humans can't do that, you're not going to go out and farm them and kill them, obviously. And I would assume you would say that is because being a human, they would normally have that trait. They would normally have that ability. So you wouldn't just kill them because they're part of a group, right? They're part of our group and that they're protected from that. This is usually the way people go with this, by the way. So I'm just kind of skipping ahead. So we can just like cover more tracks. But usually, is that where you would go? Would you say because they belong to our group, our kind, then they would get that protection even if they have a problem mentally, if they're.
But again, that's going back and oversimplifying back to genetics, because they are of our kind, and that has nothing to do with genetics. Genetics is a social science, consciousness would fall under social science and psychology rather than biology. And what you're trying to bring it back to is biology. Am I correct?
Genetics? You're saying genetics is not a point of biology?
No, sorry. what you were trying to bring it back to is the biological difference. There is very few,
Yeah.
other than genetics, other than spirituality, and what the point that you've risen is that that we are superior. I agree that we are superior than these animals. However, the difference between humans and animals is that we have consciousness, and consciousness has nothing to do with our abilities necessarily. It goes to how we think. It goes
Yeah.
from biology, which is what you're coming back to. Is you're
Sure.
coming back to the biological point where I am coming from a psychological
Yeah.
point
So
that
humans that
we
don't have as advanced consciousness because of some issues, again, you wouldn't kill them. So the point, I guess, we'll wrap this point up because I don't think we're going to get to a conclusion with it. But what I was trying to establish here was exactly where you draw this line and why you draw this line. So we went through. You said it's not genetics. You don't believe it's genetics or biology, but it's more spiritual thing. It's consciousness. But then, if I put it to you that there are humans that don't have consciousness for whatever reason, you wouldn't hurt them. So then we still don't have the distinction between humans and other animals that makes you happy to say, well, that's the difference. And we didn't actually get to the bottom of it, and I don't think we will. And the reason I don't think we will is because the vast majority of the conversations that go this way, they don't usually end up in a conclusion where it's like, oh, this is the thing. Because if you said this is the thing, right? If you know it is consciousness, if you sat there and told me now it is consciousness, that is the thing, you would have to bite the bullet on killing less conscious humans being okay. But it's not consciousness because you wouldn't bite the bullet on that because that's obviously you wouldn't do it. So I think this is quite like theoretical stuff and it's quite deep. And again, I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion. But to clarify, we didn't really get to it.
well and
We're not.
and
We're
I
not.
think what
There's
we
not. There's not a solid point. Put it this way. My reason for not wanting to do this to animals, I feel, is pretty damn solid. It's they have sentience. It's that they have, like, you agree with me, have the ability to feel pain and suffer and all these different things that we value for good reason. We value, and I have to eat something, so I'd rather eat the plants that don't have those things. That's where I stand. Where you stand is, I think animals are okay to eat, but I don't 100% know why I think that. It could be consciousness. It's not genetics. I'm not really sure. This is where we'll have to close this point and basically jump on unless you have something to add.
Well, I just wanted to say that I think that's fundamentally where a lot of moralists or vegans and anti-vegans tend to disagree, is that fundamental moral perspective of what's the difference between humans and animals. And I think it's a very complex topic that,
Right.
like you said, we can't really go into that because there's a lot of theoretical, there's a lot of things to discuss. But from my perspective, it would be like trying to describe what a carrot is to someone who's never seen vegetables. It's not just orange. It's not just vegetable. There's a constellation of things. So to say that we may as well draw a line here, this is the exact line that we draw it at, that we can eat
Mm-hmm.
dogs and cats and not whatever, or we can not eat dogs and cats. So, and then to put that into humans is a disservice to drawing down a fundamentalist line to this is what a human is. A human
Yeah.
is consciousness. A human is biology. So we can move on. I think that's the foundation of what we disagree.
Yeah.
Where a lot of those conversations
Where I'll cap this is that if anyone, you or anyone, is stabbing animals in the neck or chopping their heads off, they've got to have a damn solid and really clear reason why they think that's okay to do when they could choose not to. And it needs to be the answer to the question of kind of why is the line drawn there. It needs to be solid. So I think, if anything from this discussion, that I think that would be worth really diving into, like on your side. I feel like my side, I've given my line and I told you why. On your side, I don't think I got a completely clear answer. And it's important because at the end of the day, these are lives that we're talking about, they're not non-sentient, they're not just unfeeling lives. You know them, you love them, you care for them, you know exactly how complex they are. So it'd be on your side, I'd say, like, really, it would be really a good thing to delve further into. And I think you might end up coming out the back of it with a different perspective, to be totally honest with you. But we can move on for now because I've got some more practical questions to ask you, actually, that I'm really curious to know. I've seen your videos from your channel where you're interacting with animals in a similar way to how I see rescuers interacting with sanctuary animals, actually. And where I'm talking as in animal sanctuaries, where the animals have been rescued from places where they're going to do to them what you do to them. Okay, they've been taken out of those places either secretly, or the farmer has given them up because they for whatever reason they feel guilty or whatever. And so now they go to a sanctuary and they're treated really well and they're cuddled and kissed and scratched. And the fact, in your videos, you're talking about them and in similar ways at times. So I'm assuming, and from what I can see, these animals trust you as well. They come to you. When you got food, they come to you, obviously. But even without food, it seems like they're actually interested in being friends with you. Would you agree with me on all that? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
So my question is, on Butcher Day, when Butcher Day comes around, when you're going to kill them, which, from what I understand, you do it either when it's a larger animal, you do it with a gun, and when it's a smaller animals like chickens, you put them upside down in a cone, and then do you chop their heads off, or do you slash them through? Which one is it?
It depends on the type of animal, but yeah.
With the chickens, I mean, do you cut them the head straight off, or do you slash them in the throat? I just don't want to say it wrong if it's...
Yeah, it's generally decapitation is the quickest and most painless way.
Right. Okay. So you chop their heads off. So when you do that, so do you feel that there's like a sense of betrayal there because they trust you? Does that occur to you at all, or how do you feel on this day? Because it's like once. How many times a year is it as well? First of all.
It depends on the species. Generally, it's one time a year because we do it all in the fall to put it in the freezer.
Right. So it's
and it's so I remember my first time that I got into butchering and killing animals, and it's a spirit again that just comes back to the spiritual experience. That the what distinguishes us as humans as opposed to animals is being able to have that remorse and have those emotions, to be able to feel like, hey, this is taking a life and this is weighty. We need to understand what we're doing, and that's what we do every year is we care for them up into a point, and then we end it as quickly and painlessly as possible.
Right. But I want to get into what kind of emotions you're feeling when you do this. You've named some of these animals. I saw one of them. Your mum was there in one of the videos, and she had a chicken that she'd grown attached to because they grew poorly or whatever. And I thought in the video, oh, maybe you would keep them, but you didn't. You killed them as well. So what I'm trying to get to is someone who you come across as someone who cares, and you acknowledge all these things about them. How are you weighing that up with then doing this to them, and including ones that you've named and that you've grown attached to, and actually that you know? I mean, these are friends at this point. That you know their personalities, and they know you, and they trust you, and then you grab them, and with the chickens, in the chickens' case, you put them upside down and chop their heads off. So talk me through. Is there a guilt? Is there remorse?
Yeah, so I think there's an important distinguishing factor that, again, like we've said before, animals are not human, and it's to personify humans and to give those emotions. Because what I believe that you're saying is that betrayal, like you mentioned.
Do you feel it? Yeah.
Betraying. No, I don't feel that it's betrayal. Because again, that's ascribing personified traits to animals that animals don't have. Animals don't have those same emotions that we do. Animals are different on, like we've established, a physiological, biological, and a spiritual level than us. Does it affect me? Absolutely. But it's something, because I choose my lifestyle and the way that we do with regards to sustainability, with regards to how we believe is best for our nutrition, how we believe is best for the world, for us, and where we live, how we're able to grow things, raise things sustainably. We have made this choice. Do I like it? Not necessarily. Could I go vegan? I could try, but I believe that this is the sacrifice. This is the line drawn in the sand. That is the difference, right? That is the difference between me and you, is that I care for these animals, and the difference is I kill them at the end. And I don't let them go to waste. There are some that, if animals have issues, you'd kill them because they are they're in pain. Or whatnot.
Euthanasia.
But but
yours aren't sick or old. They're actually just the prime time to be killed, right? Which is quite young.
And that's. But I mean, that could be said. So the same issue then goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that if you're still having these trillions of animals and you want to send them all to sanctuaries, well, they can't all live these happy and healthy lives.
No, of course not. We need to stop,
because
people like yourself and need to stop buying them, because then people stop reading them, and then people out in the public, like we've already agreed, especially the tens and hundreds of millions out there who can 100% be plant-based, need to be plant-based, which we've already agreed on. You said you do feel something and you don't like it. I read in a comment you responded to somebody else. I don't know if it was another farmer. I can't remember. It was on one of your posts when I was having a look through your stuff. You said that you cry every butcher day. Why does it get you that emotional?
Because it's a spiritual experience of when you take something's life. I think ascribing personified traits to it is hard. It's something that we've learned for our entire lives, that animals are pets, animals are friends, animals are these things. But to actually look it in the eye and to be able to take its life is a powerful experience. Like I've said, it's a spiritual experience, that is taking something's life, and it's heavy. When something dies, when a family member dies, you feel similar. So being able to, for a life to be taken in your hands is difficult.
So
But because of the way that we've chosen to, live, and with regards to our understanding of how the world works,
yeah.
how sustainably we want to be able to eat, and we want to take care of these animals,
So I'm getting,
we
yeah,
have
sorry.
to
So you cut off a
do
little bit.
that.
I didn't mean to talk over you. Sorry. You're saying
Sorry.
you have to do that, right? So you give me two answers there. I want to make sure I'm getting which one was the one you told me it was because it was a heavy spiritual experience, but then you said it was difficult. So when you cry, when you get emotional on that day, is it because of the power the powerful feeling of taking a life that's making you cry, or is it because you feel bad?
That's a good question. I've never thought about that. I don't think it's remorse. I think it is more the power of that experience. I mean, you could say the people who have gone to war and people who have been in the military have a similar experience when they um, take a life of a human being. That it's just when a life dies at your hands, whether it's human or animal, you have a spiritual experience.
Okay.
But again, that just goes back to the foundation of what we just talked about, and the point we ended of the foundation of where we disagree is the spirituality versus the biology.
We didn't really get to the bottom of that though. And then, there's because at the end of the day, it doesn't feel to me that, and I think a lot of people would agree that your kind of, I suppose not justification, but I suppose explanation, it doesn't. I don't think it completely checks out. It doesn't. It's not watertight. It feels like more to me that you're doing this and you're fully committed to it and you've invested in it and it's something you feel like you have to do. But unless you're telling me that you really kind of feel, if you enjoy the power of killing, I don't feel like I feel like you're being a tiny minority of people, and those people, I'm not calling you this, but those people are classed as either psychopathic or sociopathic. Slaughterhouse workers who do this job 9 hours a day come out with PTSD, antisocial behavior, they have domestic violence, and there's a reason for that. It's not, they don't get used to it. They never get used to it. It destroys them. And most farmers that are truly honest about this, and there's been TV documentaries where farmers have cried on camera at the things that they do because they've never actually considered what they're doing. They just get into the motion, and this is where the PTSD and the stuff comes from, because it's not you become automatic and robotic with it. I don't feel like you're there. I don't feel like you're psychopathic or sociopathic. So I'm left thinking that actually you are probably on the other side where this is bothering you and this is harming you mentally, but you're trying to cope with it, and you're telling me these things to more or less try and cope with it, the things that you tell yourself. That's the impression I'm getting. And this is not me coming at you as like a haha vegan, I've got you. You've seen the whole conversation hasn't been that. I'm trying to, like, my goal of this conversation, my goal in general, is to try and change the world for animals. And these types of conversations are how we get there. So you don't need to agree with my assumptions or not. Just, this is more for you to like think about, and obviously for the viewers, they can decide if they think I'm right or not as well. But if I am right, and this is where you're at, what have you ever looked into alternative ways to feed your family that don't involve the animal part? Because I see you grow vegetables. I've seen you do actually a lot of content about vegetables and herbs, and you're very pro natural treatment, natural medicine, not go into the pharmaceutical. And I'm with you there, by the way. There's, if we can avoid pharmaceuticals and big pharma as much as possible, great. If there are herbs that do the job, I'm right there with you. So you clearly know all of that stuff as well. what stops you from looking into a project where you can gain either all, hope better all, but most of your calories, nutritional needs without doing this to animals?
So that comes down to the sustainability and the research that I've done with regards to how we gain our nutrition and the importance of where our food, our meat, our macros. So there's, with your diet, there's a lot of different pieces to it. There's your macros, which a lot of people know. You know your protein,
Mm-hmm.
you know your carbs, you know your fats. Some of the easiest and best places to get some of those things, we mentioned B12, D3 is another one that exclusively come from animals. And there are other things that are just easier and better and more sustainable to get from animals than it would be to be able to do it growing fields and fields of legumes, growing massive, which would then turn into a larger cultivated, grow up, a different type of farm than we have here. I think that we have the ability to be more sustainable. We have the ability to do things small, and we have the duty, I suppose, as you could say, for other humans, as we've seen over the last number of years, that there is a problem with our supply chain. We've agreed that there's a problem with our food supply. Even the food and the meat that we get from the grocery store is poor quality. Sometimes it's not even meat. They're adding fillers and additives to it. So we, from a research perspective, and what we've discovered with regards to food chains, with regards to sustainability, with regards to our diet and how we feel, we've experimented. Like I said, my wife for 10 years was a vegan. Myself, I was vegan, vegetarian for 6 months, and it just didn't work for my body. I think on a physiological level, I think that it's a disservice to say that humans are all the same, as different as genetically from animals. We as humans are different on a physiological level. Like I said earlier, did I lose you?
Yes, it's been going in and out. You were just saying what you think we're different on a physiological level, and then it kind of went.
Sorry. So physiologically, we are different with regards to how our bodies consume calories, how our bodies process those calories, where they put them. And so I believe that if you were to try to eat meat, it would make you violently ill. It would make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, with regards to, again, with regards to sustainability, with regards to the ease of access and this modern world that we live in, we have chosen this life, and we have chosen that the most sustainable path, the easiest route, that is the ability for us to maintain our supply chains and to be able to have our food supply on a consistent basis without having to rely on outside sources, many outside sources, is to be able to produce it ourselves. So we've pared down everything that we have the capacity to do to be able to grow the majority of all of our own foods. And through that, we have ultimately made the decision that, yes, once or twice a year, we have butcher days and we pray over these animals. We care for these animals. We want it to go as quickly as possible, and we want them to feel absolutely no pain because they were under our care.
Yeah. So just a couple of things to say on that. I think that you clearly are you are working with outside people because you're getting the animals from outside people. You're getting the animal feed from outside people. So if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to work with outsiders on these in these cases, and probably a lot of other cases, I can't see why it wouldn't be a wise for someone. If you, I take your word. You say you're empathetic and you care about animals, you care about their feelings, you care about their emotions, and you try. So I'm taking you at your word. If that is the case, and I believe you, I can't see why you wouldn't outsource for other things on instead of those. Instead of outsourcing for animals and buying animals, instead of outsourcing for the animal feed, outsource the parts that you need to until you figure out a way to grow without all of this violence to animals. I mean, I can't say, I'm not telling you I think it would be easy, as I don't think it would be easy. And that's something you said, this is the easiest way. But at the end of the day, if the easiest way includes copious amounts of violence once a year, just mass slaughter once a year, where all these animals that you've grown to love and that have grown to love you, you just take them all and you kill them all by hand. And putting yourself through that putting your family through that, because it's not just you that's going to have to do this. I mean, I guess, when you're a bit older, it's going to be someone else who takes over. You're giving this to them. You're going to put them through this intense violence as well. It's not just you that's on the line. It's not just the animals. It's everyone here. I feel that that as an empathetic, if you are an empathetic person and not, as we discussed earlier, one of these people that actually gets off on it, which I don't think you are. I mean, I feel like that would be something to aim for. That'd be absolutely something that to be gunning for. And there are organizations out there, like there's Reformed, there's Transformation. These are two organizations. They work with mostly actual, like industrial farms, trying to help them convert their businesses to different types of farming where they can still make money, but that don't involve animals. So there are organizations out there that help people do this. That the information's out there. There's maybe something that you've missed, have not found out about, or maybe because I don't know everything about this either. But what I'm saying is, surely it's worth really trying as someone who is empathetic and isn't just heartless, to this and cares about this senseless. You care about senseless violence. That's why you're against factory farming. So surely it's worth doing. And I think, this is kind of where I'll kind of summarize my thoughts now, and then please go ahead and you can say something as well. And I think we'll kind of wrap up there. I never brought you here with the intention of thinking, I'm going to be able to get this farmer to become a vegan. I don't think that's a realistic outcome of this conversation. I brought you here to talk to you about the things we've spoken about, and the outcomes that I was hoping to get would be, I hope that you think more personally about the way you've chosen to feed your family. I would hope that you think more about that and look into the alternative ways to do it without this purchasing and killing of animals. And I would hope that, I don't know if you can still hear me, or if you're going all choppy. Can you still hear me?
You're cutting in and out.
All right. Okay. I'll try, and if you get really choppy, I'll slow down. You agree with me that we know 99% of farms, they're not people in your position, these farmers. They are mass slaughtering billions, trillions, including fish, of animals. And the majority of people are not aware of how bad it really is. So I would hope that you would become a part of trying to raise awareness of that, rather than coming with anti-vegan propaganda. I would hope that would be an outcome of this conversation, that instead of coming out and coming after us or reacting to the vegans that come and DM you, which there are some, but as you're seeing now, there are many vegans like myself who are just willing to have these conversations for the betterment of animals, for the betterment of the world, right? So I would hope you would consider working towards that and working against factory farming, instead of enabling people to fund factory farming by doing anti-vegan propaganda, which is what it does. It enables people to feel good about factory farming. So I would hope that would be the two outcomes I would hope from the end of this conversation, as my kind of conclusion. Do you have? I'll let you speak uninterrupted for a moment if you want, and then we'll conclude.
Yeah, so to one of your points too, we are trying to get to a point, because you're right. I don't like having any outside forces. I don't like buying our animals. We've started an animal husbandry program, which is less about the forcing animals to mate and more just the boys and the girls are hanging out. And then if it happens, it happens. And so we want to get to a point where we have a sustainable practice that is all encompassing. And from what we have seen and what we've researched with regards to not only our own physiology and papers that we've read, but with regards to the animals that are then killed through other agricultural practices for vast farming through legumes and whatnot, I find that one of the disservices that happens is that people will talk about the mass slaughter of animals that happen on the killing room floor that is intentional, but don't really address the unintentional killing of animals that is going through these large agricultural grow ops that is growing these massive fields of stuff. And that's where we come in, is you are 100% right, that there are some disgusting practices, especially throughout the United States, some in Canada as well, and I would presume in Europe, in the UK, that there are places that are abusing and that are really taking advantage of these animals that have feelings. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to feel pain, and they shouldn't be feeling that pain. And that's why we have taken charge. And that's why we encourage people to know where their food comes from. If you're going to eat meat, know where your food comes from, know that that animal was well taken care of, and that if it loses its life so that you can gain sustenance, where we believe that our location for the ability for us to grow our own food, it is more sustainable, it is more viable for us to raise animals than it is to try to grow crops and crops of legumes, both for the environment, because we need animals to be able to supply fertilizer and different things. So animals are more than just a food source for us. Animals are a part of our ecosystem. And that's what we've tried to create, is a viable ecosystem that works all the way around. That the bugs come and eat the rotting flesh of the guts of the inside, which then feeds the chickens, which then makes eggs, which can then hatch into chicks. And so we've created, and what we're trying to get back to is the basics of an ecosystem that just works like nature. That humans are the only ones that can really feel this empathy, which is why you are vegan, is you're empathetic towards these animals, and I believe that I am as well. But the way that we have been created, the way that our bodies work, I believe we're different on physiological levels, but I think morally we differ on that empathy as well, where that line is drawn. And I think that naturally, for this ecosystem to work,
You have cut out completely, just like completely gone. Yeah, the connection's completely gone. While we're waiting for that to fix, I guess I will say it's annoying because I'd like him to hear what I'm saying, but his connection's completely gone. Yeah, you're back? Okay, you're kind of back. It's very, very bad. Pixelated.
how far did I get?
Okay, you're back fully now. I'm not sure. I think you were talking about physiological differences, and then it cut.
So we basically, we've created this ecosystem, and we want to continue to create this ecosystem and encourage other people as well to be able to have an ecosystem that is sustainable, because the pace at which we're going right now just isn't. And I also believe that if we were to move strictly towards a plant-based system, it wouldn't be either. So we need to create these ecosystems that work together, that allow us to have sustenance, which for us, we've chosen meat, and to be able to grow the legumes, the fruits and vegetables as well. And we want this ecosystem to persist. We want to create a food forest. We want to be able to have these animals that we don't have to buy from places who have abused them or haven't taken care of them. We want to create an ecosystem that all works as nature intended.
Right. So I feel like we've kind of, I can't like just leave things there because we've gone back to square one again, and this was literally the entire live stream was going through each of those points, and then at the end of the stream you've gone through each of those points again as if nothing has been discussed, and I don't know why, but I need to just quickly clarify a couple of things. We agreed that the vast majority, you agree with me, the vast majority of people should be eating plant-based. You agree with me that a plant-based world, even though it might not be ideal in the beginning, sustainability-wise, it would be preferable to the world as it currently is. We established those two things. One more thing to establish, though, that the solution to the world that you're bringing forward, you've come up with like for yourself, it's not viable for the entire population. For the entire population to work the way you work, there's not enough land, there's not enough resources. It wouldn't work. So when you're talking about those things, you're talking about yourself specifically, and what you're trying to do like trying to be all eco and stuff like that. It's for you specifically and for people like you. It's not relevant for the majority of people, which is why you agree with me that the majority of people, the cities especially where the majority of people are, should be eating plant-based. There's one more thing that I want to finish on, and you can respond to it if you'd like, but when it comes down to it, and if you're still there, you've frozen up. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, we're back, kind of, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're choppy, but I can hear you.
All right. One more thing then, that I wanted to mention as well. You're against the factory farms, and you protect your animals from coyotes and predators because you feel like you do it better. But at the end of the day, there's only small differences between what you do to animals and what industrial slaughterhouses and coyotes do to animals. There's differences in your mind are absolutely huge, but especially when you look at it from the animal's perspective, they're not that different. You slit their throats, the slaughterhouse slits their throats, the coyote rips their throat out. You shoot them in the head, slaughterhouses shoot them in the head. Again, the coyote rips their throat out. So again, is this the purpose of this stream? Is not a guilt trip or anything like that. That's just. I feel like that is about as objective as it can be. Before that point, there's a lot of differences. At that point, not that different. So I won't end it there because that's not fair. If you do want to say something, you can, and then if we can come to an end after that, then we will.
I think it comes down to, with regards to that point, anything that dies or is going to die. I mean, death sucks no matter how you string it. And I think it's important to distinguish between plant-based and vegan. I think they get used interchangeably sometimes when they shouldn't have.
Yep.
But with regards to a sustainable life and our population, I don't think the human population currently is sustainable at all. I think we're not having a high enough birth rate, and we're having a just larger population of people living longer artificially. But with regards to the end, the difference between coyote, the difference between us and slaughterhouses is that care that goes into it.
It doesn't matter at the end. It doesn't matter at the end. The outcome is exactly the same.
Which is
that like I said, you chop their head off. The slaughterhouse chops their head off. The coyote rips their head off. Now you could say you do it more carefully. But at the end of the day, from the animal's perspective, they're having their head chopped off. The outcome is identical.
But why is death bad? Death happens. Why is death a bad thing?
Death is a bad thing when you have bred somebody, an animal, with the entire purpose of killing them. Then it's bad. It's bad to create life, to kill life, like with a sentient life. It's why we all agree that certain practices within humans have been banned, because we don't believe it's right to breed, humans or vegans are consistent across the board here. We don't think it's right to create any animal into captivity to use their bodies and then kill them. Death in itself can be a good thing. Euthanasia, I agree. But this isn't euthanasia. This is killing for an ideology of yours, your ideology, which is an ideology, right? It's fair to say. Ideology is not a negative thing. Vegans, we have our ideology. You have your ideology. It's killing for your ideology. It's avoidable. You have the option to not do it, but you're choosing to do it because you have an ideological reason for it. Then it's bad. Then it's killing for ideology. Then we're back in bed with a lot of terrible people throughout history. You've also killed for ideology. I'm not likening you to them. I'm not. I'm just talking about the pure, looking top down, killing for ideology. It's a bad thing. But not killing for ideology is a bloody good thing. Avoiding suffering, avoiding violence because you believe it's wrong is a good thing. And you are doing that to some extent. Or at least if we take you at your word, you are to some extent. So why not go all the way? And that's been the point of this of live stream, if you can still hear me, is why not take that through all the way? All right. I don't know if we're going to get him back. Hopefully we do, so we can just say bye. But I think, and then when we're done with the conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it, I will check the super chats and I'll check what you guys have sent through, because I've seen a couple of questions. All right. And then is that the end? Have we fully, it'd be a good time to fully lose him, because we were pretty much done anyway. It looks like he's completely gone this time. All right. Let's have a look if I can just tell him that we'll just call it there. Or maybe he decided he was done. Could have been that as well. I asked him if he can fall in, say a quick farewell. All right, so I'll keep an eye on that anyway, to see if he pops in again, and I'll bring him back in if he pops back in. But I think he might just have been, it might just have been a good time. Maybe he's just done because it was a good time to pop out. I don't know. Oh, is he actually gone? Oh, he's fully gone. Okay, well, yeah, he bailed out then. To be fair, it wasn't a very, I feel like it was bad. I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but if he did bail out, it would be understandable. It wasn't a particularly good moment for him. It was a good moment to drop out, I think. It was getting, I suppose, a bit heavy for him. Oh, do you know what's annoying? I had 2 lights set up that I totally forgot to turn on. It would have looked a lot cooler if I had them on. So we can put them on now, so the area looks a little cooler. All right, guys. I'm keeping the page open, so to be fair, if he pops in again, we'll hear him, and I'll bring him back in. But thank you, everybody, for tuning into this. I hope you found it useful. And in conclusion, yeah, I mean, I think that we take him at his word. We take people at their word, and I'm not going to accuse him of being a liar again. I already did that once when he was lying about loving animals and lying by omission, which he I guess he more or less agreed to. He also agreed that the vast majority of people should be eating plant-based, and for a farmer to be saying that is a powerful thing. And it's good that showed me there is some honesty there, because obviously a lot of farmers would refuse to accept that because it would be going against. They'd feel like they were losing to the vegans. So the fact that he acknowledged that and admitted that is a good sign, and it's a powerful thing for a farmer to come on a vegan channel and say the vast majority of people should actually be eating plant-based. So that's good for himself personally. Now, I don't know how much thought he's put into this. I don't know if it's a sore subject for him with the animals and killing them, because maybe it is really emotional. Maybe he really doesn't like it. What I didn't mention was that I was going to get into this, but I guess we just kind of caught up. But there was a video where him and his wife were talking about the chickens they had, and his wife was saying how much she really, really dislikes the chickens, how much she really finds them just like really difficult to work with, and then also they find it equally difficult to do the killing day as well, and it's just all a mess, and they were really not enjoying it and stuff. So I mean, it doesn't sound like they're enjoying the choice they've made to do this. And, well, why would they? Because I don't think he's a psychopath. I don't think she is either. I don't think they're sociopaths. I don't think that they're actually violent people. I think they're learning violence because they think it's the only way. And that's what I think the position a lot of farmers are in, actually. I think they learn to deal with the violence because they think there's no other way. But there are other ways. And there's a new system, there's a different system we can have that is sustainable, that doesn't do this to animals, and that limits the amount of harm that we do to animals. We're never going to eradicate the harm we do to animals. It's impossible, but we can get pretty damn close. And trust me when I say breeding animals in the billions and trillions and then killing them is not how we get to that world. We've got to reject that, and we've got to move towards a plant-based system. And then we've got to figure out, hash it out. How do we make this plant-based system work, right? We've got to get to that. But first things first is acknowledging that the current system is not good, and it's a horrible system. We've got to change it. And that's kind of what I was trying to get to with Ben there, and I hope it came off well. But yeah, we'll see the comments. Get down in the comments. I'm going to read some of your comments now that you super chatted over. Mark, thank you for the super chat. Millions of carnivores are sick from poor nutrition. I'm vegan for nearly 5 decades. Never took a B12 supplement. Thank you from ranching country, New Mexico, USA. Meat stinks. Meat is murder. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that, mate. Vegan for 5 decades. That's awesome. And never took a B12 supplement. I don't know about that, bro. Maybe go and get your levels tested. Make sure you're doing all right. You don't want to just suddenly run into issues. But hey, look, maybe you're getting it from fortified foods. Maybe you're getting it another way. Either way, stay healthy, mate. Great stuff. JP and Julia, thank you so much, guys. Most people can thrive as a vegan if they know how to use Google. Those who can't use Google, there's other help from groups like Challenge 22. No excuse for animal abuse. I agree with you, JP and Julia. Challenge 22 is a fantastic resource. There's also veganuary.com. There's also veganbootcamp.com. And there are tons of activists and tons of vegans. Go on YouTube and search plant-based recipes, plant-based nutrition. There are tons of amazing channels to help you, because the how is as important as the why. The why we've established here right in this video. There's a lot of reasons to be a vegan, to eat plant-based and stop funding these horrors. But the how, well, people need help to relearn. Like I said, it's like speaking English and learning German. It's kind of similar, but it's also, there's some tricky things you need to figure out. So use challenge22.com, use veganuary.com, use vegan bootcamp, sign up to all of them, veganoutreach.com, sign up to all these. They're all free. They're all just people trying to help you. Sign up to all of them, see which one makes you feel the best. Oh, which one of these is working for me, and then stick with it. Get the advice, get the knowledge you need. Thank you, JP and Julia. Vegan Power Lab. Animals are not killed out of mercy, but greed. Vegan Power Lab said, thank you. Yeah, I agree. Most of the time, that is the absolute situation. Most animals are not killed out of mercy. They're killed out of greed. It is not euthanasia. It is greed that is killing them. Absolutely. Jason Bueno. Super Chide, thank you, mate. What happens if there is life outside our planet and we determine that they aren't as intelligent as us? Scary thought about what we do to them. Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, or they're not as spiritual as us, or they're not as, there was the point in the debate where Ben actually couldn't distinguish what the difference was. It was a little bit kind of wishy-washy, wasn't it? It was kind of vague. What is it? Is it genetics? No. Is it spirituality? Well, kind of. It's consciousness, but then is it though? Is it consciousness? Because less conscious humans, you wouldn't kill them. No. So then what is it? We never got to the bottom of it. And as I said, I don't think we would have got to the bottom of it because A, it's not something most people think about, and B, there isn't a distinction that they can make that justifies hurting animals. There isn't one. And in these moments, instead of just acknowledging it and going, do you know what? I don't know, which is what I think is the right thing to do, because actually you're not going to get there. Usually it goes around and around in circles, and I didn't want to keep doing that, which is why I just moved on. But I think the point was made. And yeah, Jason, you're absolutely right. What would happen to those other species? Thank you for the super chat. Cosmin says, isn't it better for animals to be given an opportunity to exist and experience life, albeit for a limited time, than to not live at all? Well, you can't make that decision for them, can you? Because if they don't exist, then there is no one to want that. And if they do exist, you've just brought them into a life of captivity to slit their throats at the end of it. Why do you get to make that decision? The answer is you don't get to make that decision. That's not your responsibility to make. When in doubt, err on the side of caution. Don't bring these animals into existence. Thank you, Cosmin, for the super chat. And then another super chat, isn't it? Oh, you super chatted the same one twice. Well, thank you for the double super chat anyway. And I hope I answered your question. Ben's just dropped a message saying Starlink dropped on him. So he didn't tap out. He was just, he just lost connection. I don't know if he's still there or not. Ben, can you hear me? It's still suffering. Oh yeah, great. He's here. Cool. We'll bring him back in, and we'll have the quick. There you go. Yeah, we thought you did. We thought that the connection had gone. We just thought, screw it. He's probably just bailed because the connection went. But yeah. I guess just brought you back just to say bye, I suppose, and thank you for coming on as well. I know I understand it's never. I've done it myself. It's never easy coming onto a channel that the vast majority of the viewers are going to be completely opposed to you, and so I appreciate you coming on. And a lot of people don't actually. A lot of people are very scared and don't come on to have these tough conversations. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, I've got nothing more to say. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, man.
Yeah, I lost you at your final point there. You were cutting out and I lost you. I wish I could have heard that.
Oh,
I'll have to rewatch the stream and send you something.
Let me think. What was the final point? God, I can't even remember. Yeah, maybe rewatch the end bit. Yeah, and then you can drop it in. Sorry, I couldn't give you. I can't actually remember what I said. Otherwise, I'd give you a chance to respond. But I genuinely, I don't know what it was. So right. yeah, because it was a big.
No, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, go on, man.
I think there's some really important points to make too, especially with regards to factory farming and with regards to how animals are treated. I mean, if you're going to eat meat, know where your food comes from. Know that they were treated properly. Like I said, for us, with regards to our sustainability, we believe that our animals are part of that ecosystem, and we don't believe that.
Just to let you know, we had this. We're gonna go around again, man. Like I gotta cut you off because we've You said this literally a couple of minutes ago, and I responded to it. So I don't want to go back into that cycle round and round again. So if you don't mind.
I didn't hear your response. Sorry.
Oh, you didn't. You missed the whole response to that.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh
it cut
man.
right out.
All I
Sorry.
said. All right, I'll summarize it. All I said to you, we got all of you, by the way. You don't need to repeat it. We got all of you. All I said was that we agreed. Okay, we agreed that a plant-based system would most likely be better than the current system for the vast majority, which is factory farming, the vast majority. There's nothing, we kind of moved on from the point that there's nothing to suggest it would be worse for animals, especially. So it would be better for animals, and we both care about animals. So those people especially need to be eating plant-based and not funding factory farming. So, and then we got to, that was it was the ideology. That was it. We were talking about why, you asked why is death wrong, when I was pointing out that the ways the animals die, it's not that different. The coyote, you, and the slaughterhouse, and you said, why is death even wrong? And I said, well, when you're killing for an ideology, it's wrong, because that's what you're doing. You're killing for ideology, and the vegans are on the other side of the coin, and we're not killing for ideology. And I think that is significantly a better choice to try and avoid violence and killing for ideology versus to commit to violence and killing for ideology, which is the boat you're in. And that's kind of where I think it cut out. Because it's not for survival, it's a choice. You made a conscious decision to live the life you're living, which involves copious violence, and once a year, but still copious violence, more than anyone else would ever go through in, like, an average year. No one else is going to be killing hundreds of animals ever, right? So it's a choice you've made, and it's from ideology. And that's wrong. That's a wrong decision. Just like all these other bad people of history who did the same thing. That's where we got to. And I said, I'm not likening you to them. And I said, it's just laying it out, like looking at it from top down. And that might be where you cut out.
Yeah, I believe so. I think there's a couple other points there, but
Okay.
it just comes back to sustainability for us. That I don't think that, though more people in cities should be eating plant-based, and like I said, there should be a distinction between plant-based and vegan.
Yep.
I don't think it's sustainable to be able to put 8 billion people on a plants-only diet.
It's not what they're doing right now is not sustainable, and the plant-based version of that, we already agreed, would most likely not be worse. It wouldn't be worse. It might be the same. In terms of sustainability, environmentally, or whatever, but it's not going to be worse, and especially not for animals.
Which is why we advocate for what we do too. But I think that people going to only eat vegetables and fruits is not going to last very long. I think we're at odds at our population right now, unfortunately.
What do you mean? Because socially, you mean people wouldn't stick to it because they don't have the willpower? Is that what you're saying? Or you mean?
No, I think as we would ramp up that production, I think we would find difficulties in being able to find space to be able to do that.
Right. Well, we've got to find a solution to it, because the alternative is violence. Yeah. Sustainable violence is still violence, even if it's sustainable environmentally. It's still violence. We need to find ways to look forward to be less violent to animals. The current system is the polar opposite. It is unsustainable and violent. We need to find a system that is sustainable and less violent, because we're never going to get zero. I agree with you there. It's never going to be zero. There's always going to be some harm to animals, whatever we choose. But the current system is literally maximizing it. It's maximizing violence to animals. If you're trying to argue that we've been through this, a plant-based system would be just as violent to animals, there's no reason for that to be the case at all. That would be... we're talking 3 trillion a year, and the crops that are grown, add those animals that are killed there to that as well. There's no way a plant-based food system would come anywhere near that number. It would be significantly better for animals. But anyway, we've gone through that. People can go back anyway and watch that again if they want. Listen, thank you for coming on again. I appreciate it. We'll keep in touch, and I do want to keep in touch with you, and I don't want this to be taken again. The purpose of today was not to have a go or have you leave this thinking like, oh, fuck vegans. I want to keep communications open, and I'll never publish private information, private messages. So please just DM me and ask me shit if you want, and I'll DM you and ask you shit, and it will always be private. I can be your link to the vegan world, and I want to keep that bridge open despite if there's any ill feelings from the stream. It wasn't my intent. All right. So please do that. And let's keep talking. All right.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that because it's something that, though my wife was vegan for 10 years, it's not a world that I'm very privy to. So it's very eye opening, and I'm glad to have come today and actually learned some stuff.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And if vegans come at you and be really, really horrible and stuff, remember this conversation, because I've got horrible people in my DMs too, but I don't take that out on everybody else. So just please try and keep that in mind and be one of the good guys, not one of the not one of the anti-vegan trolls. You don't want to be that. All right, man. Sweet. Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stay on, but I'll end this call now, and we'll keep in touch, man. All right.
Awesome. Appreciate it, David.
See you
Thanks,
later.
chat.
Thanks. Bye. All right. Yes. Where was I? Mindy's saying, tell him to stop the propaganda. We did that earlier on. We established that. I told him that that's one of the things I hope he'll do, and he said he was nodding, like, okay, you know. At the end of the day, guys, again, I think this kind of productive conversation is what we need more of, a lot more of, actually, as I'm learning recently. I'm learning that we need to have conversations with people that bring them onto our side in a productive way and in a honest way. What's the word? Sincere way. I don't mean pretending and acting like you're like a good guy. Oh, I'm a good vegan. I don't mean pretending. I mean actually being real with people and trying to find where you agree and build bridges, because behavior, if behavior first, if someone starts acting a certain way, their beliefs follow. Your beliefs follow your behavior. So if you have somebody out there who listens to what you're saying or debates you or whatever, and they start to think about, okay, do you know what? I'm going to be kinder to animals now, and I'm going to try and imagine if Ben goes away and goes, do you know what? I feel affected by this. I'm going to half the amount of animals we have on the farm immediately because I feel like I don't want to keep doing this at the scale I'm doing it. That's a behavior change, right? And then if the behavior changes, so does the belief. So why am I halving the animals on the farm? Well, because I believe that I don't think this is right, or I kind of don't think this is right. And that can very quickly lead somebody to becoming actually fully animal free, because it starts behavior first, right? Or for example, if someone sees a video by me or by Joey Carbstrong, and they go, do you know what? I'm going to cut out dairy after seeing videos about the dairy industry. Or they go, I'm going to stop eating pork after they see videos about pork, about the pigs and the gas chambers. And they do it because they care about animals. Again, so now the behavior's changed already. It's going to be easier for that person to start thinking about becoming a vegan than it would be before that moment. So this conversation, I would hope that, you know, would go forward in that direction. Again, I don't expect Ben to just go, oh, I'm a vegan now. I don't see that happening. But do I see him making changes on his farm, making changes to his life? Small changes, possibly, based on this conversation? I would hope so, because at the end of the day, I'm not in it to have a go at him or claim moral superiority or whatever, or try and make him feel bad or guilt him. I'm here to try and inspire change for animals, for him and for the wider audience who've watched this. So please start making these behaviors, start you making changes for animals. You can start right now. And then, you know, the changes will come, because if you agree with what I'm saying, you got to start making these changes, guys. Got to start doing it for animals. Now, Cosmin has super chatted again. Thank you, Cosmin. Says, with that logic, nobody would make children. Well, people aren't having children to slit their throats, mate. If they were, which they, you know, well, at some point in human history, people were having children to keep them as slaves. Clearly that was wrong, 100% wrong. That's the human equivalent of what's happening to animals. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Guys, any more questions for me? If not, I will probably look to start wrapping up. Maybe you could pop through if you've enjoyed the stream, maybe you could pop through some final last minute super chats or Streamlabs tips. If you've enjoyed this, to support me and support the work, guys, I really appreciate it. And I'll answer your questions. I'll give you another like 10 minutes or so to decide if you want to do that. And while you're doing that, I'll have a little chitty chat. How long are we in right now? Even 2 hours in. That's pretty good. That was a pretty concise debate, I suppose, keeping it 2 hours, under 2 hours even. Someone tagged me in the chat. I'll scroll back up to see that. Dave says, I 100% agree with what you just said. So many activists have got into attack and defense mindset. Authentic Socratic discussion is the way forwards. The thing is, mate, this attack and defense mindset. You heard what Ben said, the farmer. He said the reason that he made some of the really outlandish comments on social media is because he knows that it baits people, and he knows that it's going to start a discussion, and then that increases engagement, and then people see his channel. It's all advertisement. And a lot of vegans and social media vegans, they're doing it for the exact same reason. So they'll go out and shout at somebody as opposed to having a conversation, or they'll call them names. Not because they think that's like, oh, that's the way we change the world. I don't think many vegans believe that that's the way to change the world, by screaming at people, calling them names. But they know that that's the stuff that brings in the clicks, brings in the eyes. And then when you bring in all the eyes, then, well, that turns into attention for all your other posts where you explain why to go vegan. So it is a strategy. It's just whether or not that strategy works. Now, in Ben's case, his strategy to get more attention worked because he ended up on my channel to have this discussion. But if his aim is to get people to be better for animals and stop funding factory farming, that went against his aim, what he said, saying that vegans starve and stuff, which is why I pointed it out, because that doesn't make sense then, mate. If your aim is to stop people doing horrible things to animals, then you've got to stop attacking vegans, because vegans are on the same bloody side. We also want people to stop doing horrible things to animals. So it would be like another vegan coming after me and me, like, I don't know, like I don't know. It would be a weird thing to do, is what I'm trying to say, is to like go and say like that person's starving or whatever and undermine them like that. It's not something we should be doing if you actually agree that we should be helping animals anyway. Stacy, thank you for the tip. Just some support. What's for dinner? Stacy asks. I actually have no idea. I don't cook. We have a very traditional gender roles here in our marriage. I do this, and he cooks. Funny. So I have no idea what's coming. Oh, I see we got a super chat as well. Let's see when it's going to pop up. It's from Natalie. Is it Natalie? Let me see if it comes up. Sorry, Natasha, because it was like small and didn't show your full name. Natasha, a positive way to conclude this debate, David. Thank you, Natasha. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it could have gone all flames, gone all up in a ball of flames. Could have gone that way. Chose to do it this way. I thought this would be the better way to go about it. And we've got to remember, guys, we want meat eaters to see this and start changing their behaviors and do good things for animals, right? So going up in a ball of flames and screaming and shouting might have made this more potentially viral, but would it have gotten people to change? I don't know. I'm not convinced it would have done. So I decided to go this route and see how we go. And open to considering other options as well, but I feel like I'm definitely leaning more towards debates and conversations that go this way, because I've done it a different way for such a long time. So now I'm trying to see how this way goes and see if we could actually build bridges and work and do that. Sincerely, I'm fighting people and shouting and arguing is pretty damn exhausting. So if there's a way to reach people without all of that conflict that might make them change and make them actually do something good for animals, then I'm open to trying it, Cosmin has come back again, says, if a farmer has 100 cows and takes care of them and makes sure they are happy and kills them once they turn 5, isn't that better than having no cows at all? No, it isn't, Cosmin. Because as I've said, that farmer has brought 100 cows into existence with the intention of killing them, and then he will kill them. I look, you can disagree with me if you want, it's fine, but I don't think that farmer should be making that kind of decision. Like, oh, I want to make a load of money, and I think these cows would prefer to be alive than dead, just but they non-exist. I'm just going to base that. So I'm going to bring them into the world, and then I'm going to use them for what I want to use them for. Then I'm going to kill them, and it's for their good, because they wouldn't have existed otherwise. It's bad logic, mate. It's bad logic. The animals don't benefit from being alive because they were never in existence before that moment. They don't gain benefits. They didn't exist. There was nothing to gain benefits. They just were. There was nothing. You're not doing them a favor when you breed them, and you're not hurting them by not breeding them. Okay. Simple, I think. Or maybe it's not. It is quite a complex kind of thing to think about, isn't it? Because we can't imagine nothing, can we? We can't imagine what is pre-existence. Like, what's before you're born? Well, there's nothing. That's the state that animals are in before you bring them into the world to slit their bloody throats. So just leave them there. You don't have to play God and go, well, I'm going to bring them into existence because I think it's good. I don't know about that. What activism tactic has worked best in your experience? Raid's asking. I actually don't know. I've got viral videos. That doesn't mean that they're the best. I've got videos where I don't know. There's a lot of options, a lot of things to think about. In terms of actually persuading people in face-to-face environments, speaking like I've spoken here is working a lot better, for sure. In terms of changing people's, having them closer to changing their behaviors. But yeah, I couldn't give you a solid answer. And your second point of your question is too deep for this stream. Sorry, mate. That deserves a separate stream. This Cosmin dude's back again with another super chat. Thank you. Did your mother not do you a favor for bringing you into the world, even though she knew you have a death sentence? My mother having me is not the same as a farmer breeding cows. My mother's intention with having me was to some extent selfish, but it was for wholesome reasons. She wanted to build a family and have connection and have some kind of maybe some kind of legacy or I don't know. Like, it was out of love. Farmers are doing it because they want to kill them and eat them. You can't compare your mum bringing you into the world with love and affection and the intention of caring for you for your entire existence and giving you the best life possible to a farmer who literally is going to stab them in the throat as soon as they turn the age that he thinks, like 5 years old, when actually they could live to 25. I mean, come on, guys. Ay. And yes, I'm aware, but this is not an antinatalist discussion, guys. I know my mum could have adopted. I'm just telling you the difference between a parent having a child and a farmer breeding cows. All right? Ay. Well, I think that's, we'll wrap it up there. All right, guys, I hope you found this useful. Please share this debate if you did. Share it with people you think it could benefit. I'll try and do some clips from it. It might be difficult, but I'll try and get some clips from it and see if we can get some more exposure on the discussion and get this out to more people. We'll see how we go. But do me a favor. Like, comment, and share, please, guys. Try and get it out there. All right. It'd be really helping me out if you can do that. If you enjoyed this, if you feel like it's good, if you feel like it's useful, productive, it's down your alley, you want to see more of it, please consider joining my YouTube membership team, the YouTube members team, or my Patreon team. Because then that's how you put your support into real, tangible, like, okay, now I'm part of the team. It's how you enable me to continue doing this. Because with your financial support via the YouTube memberships team or Patreon team, I can do more of this. I can afford to do more of this. I can focus myself more here and doing more work for animals, guys. So that's how you can really support me. So please consider doing one or both. The links are there. Annie will post the links up there. And I will see you in the next one, guys. Take care of yourselves.